Joe Biden rolls out his new economic stimulus plan, and the cost comes out to almost $2 trillion. So we'll talk a bit about what's there and what all sides have seen looking forward into this. Moving on, a Penn State professor is charging YAF, Young Americans for Freedom, with being responsible for the Capitol riot. Metal detectors in the Capitol become the new sticking point for Republican congressmen as they continue to try and bypass them. And Parler may never come back. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Remember, today is the day that I come back and read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat and thank everybody for coming by and sticking by. So, if you're over on the Instagram, head on over to one of the big five and come on in and get your name in the live chat. I'm on Twitter, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, and DLive. So come on over there and check that out over there. I've got the names of everybody throughout the past week in a handy little notebook here so I can also come back and thank you guys personally for those of you who hung out during the week but didn't manage to make it for the Friday show. But everybody gets a personal thank you today because without you, there is no Contemporary. We got a bunch of stuff to get to today. By the way, if you're over on the Instagram too, you can see the articles that I am reading from and listen to the video as well because I can't transmit to the Instagram. But you can see everything over on the Big Five once again. I want to start off with just this tweet here that I found right before I went live, like legitimately right before I turned the cameras on and went live. I found this tweet from Anna Kate. Trump won the election and they know it, which, people have been trying to claim that on Twitter since, November 4th. They've been trying to claim that, but this is a new one here because, usually they'll tag these up here and they say, this claim of election fraud is disputed. That's pretty standard fare for Twitter at this point. You can say whatever you want about a Ugandan election or, some election over in Russia, in Germany, in Sweden, anywhere else, but if you say something about this past election, it might be dangerous and horrible and somebody might die and anything. And they actually went this far, much further than that. So, as you can see on the new tweet that I have up here, this claim of election fraud is disputed, and this tweet can't be replied to, retweeted, or liked due to a risk of violence. Interesting way to put this, interesting way to watch what happens here, and just an interesting thing for censorship. So we will see what happens with that. I know everything is just about over at this point. We're going to be seeing the end very soon. And then the media will go back to sleep because they can't get that ratings boost out of, come on, man! Either that or they don't want to catch him in the act of saying something ridiculously stupid. Let's keep going. It's funny. One person's ridiculous stupid is a ratings boost, and the other one's ridiculous stupid is, we might lose our jobs because the government might shut us down. And yet everyone continues to say things that are ridiculously stupid. All right, before we get into any of the news, though, and after the tweet here, head on over to the website freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. It looks like I'm going to be taking some time and sitting down with Jake this weekend to see if we can't get some of this fixed, to see if we can't get moving on to the written articles version of this. So we're going to sit down, the two of us, and see if we can hash out some of the problems that we're having with the website and get it up and functional so you can check out other great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The R-Rated Conservative, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The Daily Ignoramus. But come on over there, check out our website, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, moving on in. Looking at the Dow. The Dow went down at the end of the day. It spiked up at the beginning of the day, kind of just steadily dropped throughout the day. And probably about the time we had the release of what was going to be coming, about the time we released what the stimulus plan is going to be, it dropped like a stone. It tried to climb again, and then down, ending the day 0.22% down, 68.95 points down. However, It did break an intraday record again, so I'm going to call that one a big loss considering where it hit and where it ended. Looking at the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at $37,263.50 in US dollars. So it fell a little bit from yesterday, but it's hanging up there in some of those big numbers. I do kind of wish I would have heard about this before it got big. I remember my ex told me about this, and I mean, she was big into the tech industry too. She was a computer programmer, but I remember her telling me, I wish I would have got into that when I was coming out, but I didn't trust it at the time. But I'd be able to retire by now, and probably because, shares at the beginning were going for 50 cents a share. People were buying into it for 50 cents a share, and all of a sudden now, I mean, that was at the time too, where Bitcoin was worth like 50 cents a Bitcoin too. Now, if you buy a Bitcoin at 50 cents and now it's worth 37,000, what do? You go out and buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. You're in millions of dollars. Probably not enough to retire off of, but still plenty to go on with there. All right, let's see what the investors have to say with that. From IBD, Dow Jones Futures, $1.9 trillion Biden stimulus plan unveiled. K-shaped stock market rally yields 5 breakouts. Oh, they're going to go with K-shaped again. Wait, no, they can't say K-shaped because that might be bad for Joe Biden because he might make the rich richer and the poor poorer. If you didn't know that was coming into this presidency, you weren't paying attention between 2008 and 2016. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones Futures fell slightly early Friday morning along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures after President-elect Joe Biden unveiled his $1.9 trillion stimulus plan Thursday night. JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo report earnings early Friday. The stock market rally suffered modest losses on the major indices Thursday, reversing from solid morning gains as giants such as Apple, Microsoft, Visa weighed. That overshadowed another strong day for small caps. Taiwan Semiconductor leading a big chip rally. Breakouts from the likes of Qualcomm stock and IPOs such as Airbnb. In recent days, it's been a K-shaped stock market rally, much like the K-shaped economic recovery. Come on, man, it's K-shaped! In the K-shaped market rally, some sectors are doing very well, such as cyclicals, banks, chips, and IPOs. But other areas are running cool, notably tech titans such as Apple stock, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. So, while the major indices point to a steady stock market rally, that masks big differences underneath. On Thursday, Qualcomm cleared a buy point, closing below that key level, but still actionable. Inspire Medical Systems broke out, along with new IPOs Yatsen, Context Logic, and Airbnb stock. JP Morgan edged up 0.6% to 141.17 on Thursday, closing just below a 141.20 buy point. From a year-long cut base fueled by stimulus and vaccination hopes, along with widening Treasury yield spreads, Citigroup and Wells Fargo stock have been racing higher as well as to their best levels in months. Taiwan Semiconductor triggered big chip rally on Thursday. Taiwan Semiconductor earnings beat while sales came in light, but revenue guidance was strong. TSM stock surged 6.1%, hitting a new high. TSM makes chips for Apple, AMD, Nvidia, Qualcomm, and more. The world's largest chip foundry also gave a strong capital spending forecast. Good news for semiconductor equipment makers. ASML, Lam Research, Applied Materials, and KLA Corp were big winners on Thursday. On the futures, Dow Jones Futures fell 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 Futures retreated 0.3%. NASDAQ 100 Futures lost 0.2%. Dow Jones Futures fell after Biden's Thursday night speech, though the stimulus plan was already broadly understood. So I haven't listened to the speech yet because I was not feeling good yesterday. I actually wound up going home from work early and got in bed at 5:30 and woke up at 5:30 this morning. That was partially fueled by a Tylenol PM. So I have no idea what the speech was, and I didn't know he gave a speech until just now. Otherwise, I'd have probably pulled it in and we'd probably listen to a clip of it. But I've got a note here. I will look for the speech, and we will talk about this over on the Red and Ed show on Monday on some of the speech. Hopefully, one of these other articles I have up here will talk a bit about it, so we can talk a bit about that as well. So we will see what happens with that. Let's see what CNBC has to say. Careful what you wish for. Hedge fund manager warns Biden's spending plan could pop stock market bubble. From Sam Meredith. No, that's not going to be. Biden can't pop that. That's Trump's economy. President-elect Joe Biden's COVID spending plan could recreate the financial conditions seen in the run-up to the 1929 Wall Street crash, according to one hedge fund manager, with rising inflation potentially responsible for popping an epic stock market bubble. The comments come shortly after Biden outlined the details of a $1.9 trillion rescue package designed to support households and businesses through the coronavirus pandemic. David Neuhauser, managing director of a small Chicago-based hedge fund, Livermore Partners, said that Biden's spending plan appeared to be an attempt to mimic the Roaring Twenties by getting people back into the workforce quickly. But beware, the Roaring Twenties led to the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. So, be careful what you wish for, he added. If passed by the new Democratic-controlled Congress, the American Rescue Plan includes $1 trillion in direct relief for households, $415 billion to tackle the virus, and roughly $440 billion for small businesses. That is on top of, $3 trillion that they just spent in other countries, and another almost $1 trillion that they spent in stimulus relief. So just keep throwing more money at it, I guess. We will see what happens with that. We not only have an economic imperative to act now, I believe we have moral obligation, Biden said on Thursday as he announced his plan from his transition headquarters. That's his basement. In Delaware. The former vice president is set to be inaugurated on January 20th. When asked whether investors should be concerned that the president-elect's spending plan could lead to an event like the 1929 stock market crash, Neuhauser replied, I think so. You're seeing this massive $1 trillion deficit spending due to a pandemic that has, of course, stopped the world in the past 9 months, and the goals, of course, are we're going to get a vaccine. We already have it. And we're going to come through this, Neuhauser told CNBC's Squawk Box Europe. We still don't know the dynamics as to how fast and swiftly we come through this. We also don't know what global growth will look like in the future years, too. Well, the one upside to this is that European countries and Canada are much more likely to keep shut down no matter what the U.S. does, and have less restrictions on government, so the government can crack down more on their freedom. Meaning, we could see a situation similar to the end of World War II as well, with the boom coming in, because we're the only place that can effectively manufacture. It's a possibility. That is something. I'm not going to be completely black-pilled on the economy in spite of the fact that it does look like it's pointing downward, but it is unlikely. So a couple things to watch as we go with that. All right, let's get on to the big news of the day. And of course, both of the stock market articles have hinted toward this. We have a stimulus plan. Starting with Fox News, Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus plan is a bailout for blue states. Bad lockdown policies, Waltz. From David Montanaro, Representative Michael Waltz of Florida took issue Friday with President-elect Joe Biden's massive $1.9 trillion stimulus package proposal that aims to combat the coronavirus and attempt to pump up a U.S. economy severely battered by the worst pandemic to strike the globe in a century. In an address to the nation on Thursday, Biden spelled out his plans to speed the nation's COVID vaccination program, boost coronavirus testing capacity to help reopen businesses and schools, provide for $1,400 stimulus checks for Americans and federal funds for state and local governments to use to avoid laying off police officers, firefighters, and other first responders, as well as teachers and health workers. Biden labeled it as the American Rescue Plan. But Waltz said on Fox and Friends that he views the measure as a bailout for Democrat-run states, such as New York and California, which did not handle the COVID-19 pandemic as effectively as Florida. Yeah, watch for that. Watch for Fox News to come up and suddenly be critical of the fucking government again. And they rolled over for Democrats. But, now that the evil orange man is out of there, they can go back and start supporting their boring neocon bullshit warmongers. And they're suddenly going to hate the presidency once again. Well, they were hating the presidency, but they're going to start loving Republicans and hating Democrats, and every bad thing in the world is a Democrat thing. I got a quote there. I'm not going to read the quote here, but okay, let's read a little bit of this here. Representative Mike Walls, this is a bailout package for blue states and their bad policies for their lockdown policies. The best stimulus that we could have as a country is to allow the economy to smartly and safely open, like we've done in Florida. Kids have been in school in person since last August, and we are not having a statewide meltdown. You can wear masks and space out and go to school because we take the approach of letting business owners and individuals and families make those smart decisions rather than the mass policies from lockdowns, and our numbers aren't any worse or aren't any different than California and New York, but, they have these massive state budget deficits. They have to fill that hole. States have to balance their budget. The federal government doesn't, so AOC and now Joe Biden are going to the big piggy bank in the sky that prints nonstop money. Here's the thing. Our spending package that we passed was $1.5 trillion. We've now spent over $6 trillion and counting. Bringing it full circle to the bigger picture, the Chinese military, their command is counting on this country going bankrupt before they make their big moves around the world, and every estimate I have seen has accelerated that between 2024 and 2026 now with this additional spending. Well, we will see what's coming with this, but there are a couple different ways to look at this as well. Like I said, I can't be completely black-pilled knowing the fact that every other country in the world is also ceasing and cutting their manufacturing without thought of opening back up, and this country is at least looking at the prospect of opening back up, at least in some states. So we could take the world manufacturing and production cycles back over. This could be like the post-World War II boom when nobody else could manufacture. I don't know. I have no crystal ball. But I can look at this from both directions and both angles. Let's keep going. From CNN, here's what's in Biden's $1.9 trillion economic rescue package from Tammy Luby and Katie Labosco. Bigger stimulus checks, more aid for the unemployed, the hungry, and those facing eviction. Additional support for small businesses, states, and local governments. Increased funding for vaccinations and testing. These are key parts of a $1.9 trillion proposal that President-elect Joe Biden unveiled Thursday evening. Billed as the American Rescue Plan, the package augments many of the measures in Congress's historic $3 trillion coronavirus relief bill from March and in the $900 billion legislation from December, which was scaled back to garner support from Senate Republicans. Now that Democrats control both chambers in the White House, they can spend money willy-nilly and nobody's going to give a fuck. Wait, no, that's not something CNN would say. Now that Democrats control both chambers in the White House, Biden is pushing for the big steps he says are needed to address the immediate needs and spend all that money so that our... No, wait, no, that's CNN? They're also not going to say that. And control the coronavirus pandemic. He also plans to lay out an economic recovery plan in coming weeks that aims to spend all kinds of money to devalue the currency and give... No, that's CNN once again. They're not going to say something like that. That aims to create jobs and combat the climate crisis, among other measures. The government creating jobs. Have you ever heard of such a scary thing? The plan calls for sending out another $1,400 per person to eligible recipients. This money could be in addition to the $600 payments that were approved by Congress in December and sent out earlier this month, for a total of $2,000. Snip, 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 snip. None of that shit. The new payments would go to adult dependents that were left out of the earlier rounds, like some children over the age of 17. It would also include households with mixed immigration status, because of course it would. After the first round of $1,200 checks left the spouses of undocumented immigrants who do not have Social Security numbers. I see. The spouses have social security numbers. Oh, I see. Because not every household's not getting the full 2,400. God, the world's going to end. Biden would increase the federal boost the jobless receive to $400 per week from the $300 weekly enhancement contained in Congress's relief package from December. He would also extend the payments along with two key pandemic unemployment programs through September. This applies to those in the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program who have exhausted their regular state jobless payments, and in the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which provides benefits to the self-employed, independent contractors, gig workers, and certain people affected by the pandemic. Lawmakers only provided an additional 11 weeks of support in the December package, which will last until March. The plan would provide $25 billion in rental assistance for low and moderate income households who have lost jobs during the pandemic. That's in addition to the $25 billion lawmakers provided in December. Another $5 billion would set aside to help struggling renters pay their utility bills. Biden is also calling for $5 billion to help states and localities assist those at risk of experiencing homelessness. The plan would extend the federal eviction moratorium, set up to expire at the end of January, to September. So now, get this, and think about this just for a second. Now, at this point, when people come back and it's time for them to pay rent again, they will be a full 18 months behind. They will have to come up with 18 months worth of back rent in order to be square and within their contract. Never mind the fact that their year lease was already up and they've already breached their contract for almost a full year at this point. Through September, that's 18 months. I wonder how leasing affects that. I really do. This is going to be a housing bubble. And this is me coming and getting a real estate license, knowing that some of these units are going to be moving here in the near future, too. Biden would extend the 15% increase in food stamps benefits through September instead of having it expire in June. He would invest another $3 billion to help women, infants, and children secure food and give U.S. territories $1 billion in nutrition assistance. He would partner with restaurants to provide food to the needy Americans and jobs to laid-off restaurant workers. I think a private charity would handle that better. I really do. I gotta say that one. More money for childcare and tax credits. The plan calls on Congress to create a $25 billion emergency fund and add $15 billion to an existing grant program to help childcare providers. A temporary increase of tax credits. Biden wants to boost the child tax credit to $3,600 for children under 6 and $3,000 for those between 6 and 17 for a year. But only for a year. I'd like to see those go permanently, but also taxation is theft. And he proposes to raise the maximum earned income tax credit for a year to close to $1,500 for childless adults, increase the income limit for the credit to about $21,000, and expand the age of range of eligibility to cover older workers. That doesn't sound like a Democrat plan. But, if they're going to do the right thing, if they could make it permanent, I'd be a lot happier. But, hey, if they're going to increase the earned income tax credit, I've got to give them credit for when credit is due. I really do. And if they're going to give relief by cutting down taxes for people, that is credit where credit is due. The plan would reinstate the paid sick and family leave benefits that expired at the end of December until September 30th. The plan calls on providing $15 billion to create a new grant program for small business owners, separate from the existing Paycheck Protection Program. Biden wants to spend $350 billion to state and local territorial governments to keep their frontline workers employed, distribute the vaccine, increase testing, reopen schools, and maintain vital services. Increase support for vaccines and testing. You knew that was coming. $15 an hour minimum wage. That's the poison pill right there. Biden is calling on Congress to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and to end the tipped minimum wage and sub-minimum wage for people with disabilities. So that's what's in there. Now, and I will give credit where credit's due on some of this. If he's going to increase the earned income tax credit to where you make more before they start pulling taxes out of you, that's a good thing. If he's going to increase the child tax credit, that's a good thing. I know it's going to be temporary. But those are good things. The problem that I have with that is that you're cutting down the revenue that's going to come into the federal government while quadrupling the money that's coming out of the federal government. Debt is a real thing. And that's why I looked, it's like with Jorgensen when she was tweeting out throughout the campaign. Or not, it wasn't her tweet out, it was somebody else that tweeted out, what are you going to do with all that money when Jorgensen ends federal income tax? Well, she's not going to. Because you have to take care of the existing debts first before we get to that. I want to see income tax go away just as much as the next person does, but I also understand that there are almost $30 trillion sitting in debt out there that need to be taken care of, and it's not going to go away until we cut some of this spending. So, we will see what happens with that. I've got another one here on the stimulus from the New York Post. Joe Biden's proposal expands eligibility for $1,400 stimulus checks. Snip, 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 snip. Getting rid of that shit, too. From Noah Manskar. Nothing comes out of the government that doesn't have a hook attached to it. Joe Biden wants to send millions of Americans their third stimulus check and give others their first. The president-elect's $1.9 trillion economic relief plan calls for yet another round of direct payments to help people pay bills and support their families during the coronavirus pandemic. The proposal would expand eligibility for the $1,400 checks to some people left out of the first two rounds of relief. One key group is adults who can be claimed as dependents on other people's income tax returns, such as college students or elderly people being cared for by their adult children. Both previous stimulus bills providing direct payments only allowed taxpayers to collect additional money for dependent children younger than 17. Last March's CARES Act gave households $500 for each qualifying kid, on top of $1,200 per adult, while December's $900 billion relief package offered $600 for children and adults alike. Biden's new plan could also provide stimulus checks to a broader swath of immigrant families. The plan calls for giving them to all mixed-status households, a term referring to families in which one person is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, while others lack legal immigration status. Roughly 16 million people in the U.S. live in a mixed-status family, including an estimated 6.1 million children who are American citizens, according to the National Immigration Forum. I could go on a complete different tangent about DACA and the problems that are there, but the fact of the matter is those people are going to remain in immigration limbo for probably the rest of their lives. Last month's stimulus bill took a step in this direction by providing $600 payments to American citizens married to undocumented immigrants, but the money wasn't available to the undocumented parents of U.S. citizen children with Social Security numbers, according to the Internal Revenue Service. Biden's plan doesn't specifically say whether those families would be eligible for the $1,400 checks, but he does say that it would expand eligibility to all mixed-status families, suggesting that currently ineligible immigrant households would receive the funds. And see, there's the problem. There's the issue that I have coming up with this. It's not the fact that they're cutting out the taxes. It's the fact that they're spending all this money to go along with it. All this money to keep going along with it. If you're going to cut the taxes, that's great. That's fantastic. But you got to cut the spending to go along with it. But also, cutting the taxes is the way to get the economy stimulated again. Because that frees up money for entrepreneurs to start businesses and start employing more people. All right, let's keep going. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Capitol riots again. I've got one here from the New York Times, a former newspaper, archived, of course, because you have an ad blocker on and you can't read this. Well, fuck you then. I'm not going to look at your ads. We'll take the archive instead. A man who carried a Confederate flag into the Capitol has been arrested. From Julia McDonnell, Nieto Del Rio, Adam Goldman, and Katie Benner. A man who was photographed holding a Confederate battle flag inside the U.S. Capitol last week during the riot was arrested Thursday in Delaware. Two law enforcement officials said the man, Kevin Seafried, was wanted by the FBI, which had sought help from the public to identify him and had widely circulated a dispatch plastered with images of him. In a bulletin, the agency said that it was looking for assistance to identify individuals who made unlawful entry into the Capitol, including the man with the Confederate flag now identified by the New York Times as Mr. Seafried. According to court documents, Mr. Seafried and his son Hunter Seafried were identified after the FBI received a report from a coworker of Hunter Seafried that the man had bragged about being in the Capitol with his father on January 6th. Mr. Seafried's son was also charged. The FBI had received more than 126,000 photographic and video tips as of earlier this week, as agents also scrubbed airline passenger manifests and video of air travelers to and from Washington to find potential suspects. If that doesn't scare the shit out of you. The top federal prosecutor in Washington said this week that he expected the number of people charged with crimes tied to the Capitol riot to rise into the hundreds. Yep, that facial recognition software, that's going to be a big thing coming off of this. And honestly, this still has the tinfoil sensors going off in my head, and a lot of this does terrify me. What this could be, why this could be staged, and what this could mean. Getting some people on the no-fly list, getting some people unable to vote because they're now convicted felons. Because some charismatic Antifa guy at the front said, Hey, you peaceful guys, let's go bust into that Capitol, eh? So, I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what's real, what's fake, what's conspiracy, what's beyond that. But they got another one. All right. From CBS News, this comes from a different story that Midget B left in the Discord that I was not able to independently verify, but looking up the name in the story, I was able to come across this. Joint Chiefs remind military of duty to support and defend the Constitution. From Grace Seegers. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest-ranking officers in each branch of the military, sent a remarkable memo to all members of the armed forces on Tuesday, reminding them of their duty to uphold the Constitution and reaffirming that President-elect Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th. The American people have trusted the armed forces of the U.S. to protect them and our Constitution for almost 250 years. As we've done throughout our history, the U.S. military will obey lawful orders from civilian leadership, support civil authorities to protect lives and property, ensure public safety in accordance with the law, and remain fully committed to protecting and defending the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, the generals and admirals said in their memo. Wouldn't there be two admirals? Because wouldn't the Joint Chief of Staff for the Air Force also be an admiral? I believe the Coast Guard would be as well. I believe the generals would only be Marine Corps and U.S. Army. Maybe Space Force, too. The memo denounced the attacks on the Capitol on January 6th, during which supporters of President Trump overran the building in a violent assault that resulted in the deaths of 5 people. We witnessed actions inside the Capitol building that were inconsistent with the rule of law. The rights of freedom of speech and assembly did not give anyone the right to resort to violence, sedition, and insurrection, the chief said. As service members, we must embody the values and ideals of a nation. We support and defend the Constitution. Any act to disrupt the constitutional process is not only against our traditions, values, and oath, it's against the law. And that goes in both directions, too, because remember, and I think this is the point that the Joint Chiefs were trying to get to. Yes, they are trying to protect the constitutional transfer of power, as needs to be. As much as I don't like the fact that Kamala Harris is going to be the President of the United States, given the fact that she put people into prison and laughed about it, and laughed about the fact that she smoked weed listening to Tupac and Snoop before there were Tupac and Snoop. The fact that this woman is going to be the President of the United States scares the shit out of me, but we must both protect the constitutional transfer of power, but also protect the people from the government, which is what was in the spirit of the Constitution, protecting the people from the government. And as long as they stay peaceful, then we shall not be bringing the government to crack down against them. The Joint Chiefs of Staff serve as the President's chief military advisors and typically remain apolitical. Although the memo does not make a political statement, it is notable that the service chiefs felt they needed to reaffirm the duty of the military ahead of the inauguration. On January 20th, 2021, in accordance with the Constitution confirmed by the states and the courts and certified by Congress, President-elect Biden will be inaugurated and will become our 46th Commander-in-Chief, the memo continued. The message was signed by General Mark Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General John Hyten, the Vice Chairman, General James McConville, Chief of Staff of the Army, General David Berger of the Marine Corps, commanded, Admiral Michael Gilday, the Chief of Naval Operations, General Charles Brown Jr., Air Force Chief of Staff. Okay, Air Force is a general. I thought that would be an admiral. General John Raymond, Chief of Space Operations, General Daniel Hokanson, Chief of the National Guard Bureau. So this is going to be interesting to see as we get up closer to the inauguration and see what they're going to do. I know that, according to the article that Midget put in there, Nancy Pelosi was asking the military to be their shock troops and their police force, which I would not put that past Nancy Pelosi to do, but they do understand that they serve the Constitution, not any one figurehead in the government. So we will see what happens with that. From the New York Post, AOC says Congress may form commission to rein in media after the Capitol riot. From Ebony Bowden, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez revealed that Congress is looking into creating an investigative commission to rein in the media in the wake of the U.S. Capitol siege. During a lengthy Instagram Live on Tuesday evening where she revealed she feared for her life, the drama during the siege, the squad member accused the mainstream media of spewing disinformation ahead of the deadly riot in which 5 people died. Never mind the dozens of people that died across the country in the rest of the St. George riots. There's absolutely commission that's being discussed, but it seems to be more investigating in style rather than truth and reconciliation, she said. I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that's part of what happened here, Ocasio-Cortez, the Honorable D. Twitch, went on. We're going to have to figure out how to rein in our media environment so you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation, she said. Yeah, that sounds very, very First Amendment. But, of course, now our guy's coming in, so now we have to rein in the media. But the media had to be absolutely 100% protected from the government when Evil Orange Man was in there. Do you see the double standard that's coming from this? I see it. Quick reminder, if you are in the chat and lurking, you will get your name read out at the end of the show if you do chat at least once. And you might get your comment read if your comment is sufficiently stupid, because that would raise the intelligence level of this program. All right. I got one here from The Federalist, which I don't normally read, but I thought this one at least bore some sort of relevance in what's going on here. Non-green check verified, so do your own independent verification, of course, on this one here. And I will continue to do the same. I was not able to independently verify this morning, but at least this one bore some sort of message out there. Penn State professor slams student conservative youth group as responsible for the Capitol riot. Of course, it's The Federalist. They don't give an author. A political science professor at Penn State University rejected students' request to serve as an advisor for the school's Resurrected Young Americans for Freedom chapter Tuesday, charging the group as responsible for recent riots at the U.S. Capitol. The group did not participate in those events at all. On principle, I do not take part in any on-campus political movements, organizations, or other. Penn State political science professor Pete Hatmi initially wrote in an email first reported by the New Guard and obtained by the Federalist, citing a commitment to unbiased instructor. I read that completely wrong. To be an unbiased instructor. Hatemi went on to repeat charges of racism and bigotry that have become routine on college campuses and increasingly elsewhere as conservatives are smeared with attacks, cloaked in the moral righteousness of social justice. In your case, under no condition would I support any group that has an implied or explicit support for Trump, racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, xenophobia, what are the other buzzwords that go along in there? Or indifference to democratic values, including peace, liberty, and freedom. Liberty. That's it. Especially given the fact that we just read an article where AOC said we need to rein in the media. Liberty, yeah. That's exactly what I see coming out of people. coming out of the left. We have such a pride for liberty. I question if your national organization has some responsibility of recent actions. Well, that's a dangerous road to go down. And like I said, do your own independent verification on this one. I will be doing the same as well. If I do include this on the RedNet show, it will have been verified by a couple other news outlets, but it was at least worth reading on this one to see where some of this could be possibly going. Let's keep going. From Fox News, Portland reporter presses mayor on whether inaction on city violence inspired Capitol Hill rioters. From Joseph A. Wolf's Zone. In Portland, Oregon, a TV reporter pressed Mayor Ted Wheeler Tuesday about whether his ineffectiveness at quelling the violence in his city over the past year played a role in last week's riots on Capitol Hill. Basically, it's kind of one of those, if it's okay for them, is it okay for us kind of things. During an interview with KATU reporter Genevieve Riaumi, Wheeler vowed to hold those responsible for the unrest in Portland, which has garnered national attention following the death of George Floyd. However, it was a question that tied the violence in his city to the January 6th riot in Washington, D.C. that appeared to strike a nerve with the Democratic leader. Last week, we watched as pro-Trump supporters broke into the U.S. Capitol. The insurrection was unlike anything that the country has ever seen. Reunion began, but just 3 weeks ago, protesters broke into the Oregon State Capitol. I've heard people at these protests elsewhere saying, well, they let it happen in Portland, so why not here? Yeah, never mind the fact that they also all but successfully broke into the federal courthouse in Portland. It seems that in the same ways, the actions of these small groups that you're referring to have set the stage for what has happened on a state level and potentially on a national level, Reum continued. I know you said that it will take some time to crack down on these groups, but do we have that time? We can actually listen to this whole thing, so let's do that instead.
But just 3 weeks ago, protesters broke into the Oregon State Capitol. I have heard people at these protests elsewhere saying, well, they let it happen in Portland, so why not do it here? It seems in some way the actions of these small groups that you're referring to have set the stage for what has happened on a state level and potentially a national level. I know you said it will take time to crack down on these groups, but do we have that time?
Are you blaming me for what happened at the U.S. Capitol? I don't buy that premise at all.
But just 3 weeks ago, protesters broke into the Oregon State Capitol. I have heard people at these...
Well, Wheeler's not going to take any responsibility, and good on Genevieve for at least trying to make him stand up to what happened and what was allowed to happen in his city. We got to keep moving along here. From NBC, Republicans continue to defy metal detectors as Capitol security ramps up. From Alan Smith. House Republicans on Wednesday defied the newly installed metal detectors at the entrance to the chamber for the second day in a row ahead of the vote on whether to impeach President Donald Trump. Matt Fuller, a reporter for HuffPo, recorded at least 12 GOP lawmakers either sidestepping the metal detectors or setting them off and continuing onto the House floor. They included Representatives Virginia Foxx of North Carolina, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, and Louis Gohmert of Texas. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene just kind of going through. We knew about this one already. We read about this yesterday. But to keep going on this, and the reason I included that was the Daily Wire says Pelosi will fine House members $5,000 if they evade Capitol metal detectors. From Emily Zanotti. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi suggested she will begin fining members of Congress who refuse to go through the metal detectors on their way into work at least $5,000 each time they evade a search, per a statement in the Speaker's office released late on Wednesday. The U.S. Capitol installed metal detectors just days after a violent mob attempted to overtake the building. The attack, which killed 5 people and wounded dozens more, resulted in more than 150 arrests so far, and more arrests and more charges are expected. Following the incident, Capitol Police and the Secret Service greatly increased security across the U.S. Capitol and its grounds, installing a 7-foot deterrent fences, activating uniformed federal law enforcement, and installing a series of metal detectors at entrances. You know what, Nancy? If you thought this was going to be a problem, then maybe you shouldn't have passed the rules for the current Congress that allowed carrying of firearms into the building. Because, you know what? That's not against the rules. By your own admission, it's not against the rules, in spite of the fact that your own caucus was trying to push to get this included in the rules. Nice quest, I like that. So that's what they've got there. There's the statement. On behalf of the House, I express my deepest gratitude to the U.S. Capitol and police for their valor that they showed during the deadly insurrection on the Capitol as they protected the lives of the staff and Congress. Sadly, just days later, many House Republicans have disrespected our heroes by verbally abusing them and refusing to adhere to basic precautions keeping members of our congressional community, including the Capitol Police, safe. The House will soon move forward with a rule change, imposing fines on those who refuse to abide by those protections. The fine for the first offenses will be $5,000 and $10,000 for the second offense. The fines will be deducted directly from members' salaries by the Chief Administrative Officer. Yeah, I don't think that's legal. I think due process still applies, even if you're a lawmaker. I would question that one. I think that one's going to go to the Supreme Court, guys. All right. And another one here from NBC on the same line. Some Democrats in Congress are worried their colleagues might kill them. From Benji Sarlin. After last week's deadly assault in the U.S. Capitol by supporters of President Trump, members of Congress are expressing something once unthinkable, that some of their own colleagues may be endangering their lives, not in a rhetorical sense, but in a direct and immediate way. It's the most poisonous I've ever seen, Representative Don Beyer said in an interview. There's the overall sense that maybe if some of them have guns, and likely the ones who are more into conspiracy theories and QAnon, with a pedophilic satanic rings, are we safe from them? Since the deadly riot, January 6th, lawmakers have suggested, not so far backed up by evidence, that far-right colleagues may have helped plan or guide the attack. There are particular concerns about some newly elected members who have espoused extremist views, including comments supportive of the QAnon lie that accuses perceived enemies of Trump of being part of a child-abusing cult. So, yeah, that's happening. Just a sec, I got to address something here. Maybe I don't have something to address here. Let's keep going, though. Sorry about that. A little bit on-air production. No. All right, it looks like we are back at some point here. Looks like the reconnection was successful. Apologize for that one. Looks like we lost internet completely as we went along. So, if everybody wants to reach out to everybody else who was watching there for just a second and see if we can get everybody pulled back in. Get started once again there. Thank you for your patience on that. Looks like I see the numbers climbing back up there. Let's see if we can't get back up to 10 where we were before. Thank you once again for your patience on that one. That looks to be a Spectrum thing, not a computer thing. But it did drop. All right. We were reading about Rose McGowan, though. Rose McGowan calls Trump's second impeachment cult propaganda, a theater of mass destruction. From Melissa Roberto. Rose McGowan has ripped the House of Representatives vote to continue the process of removing President Trump from office. The Hollywood actress turned activist took to Twitter late Thursday to share her opposition to Wednesday's House vote of 232 to 197 to impeach the president for incitement of insurrection after a mob of his supporters besieged the Capitol on January 6th in a failed attempt to stop the certification of President-elect Biden's Electoral College win. In a scathing tweet, McGowan called the actions of the Trump cult-like, which is something she's said numerous times in the past about Hollywood. The impeachment is cult propaganda, a theater of mass distraction. U.S. cult members on the left will cheer, those on the right will be in a fury, McGowan wrote. Yeah, it probably is. The tweet continues, and the country's starving, sick, and poor will sink further and further. Good thing the elites are leading us. Dude, Rose McGowan is getting based as fuck. I understand she still didn't like President Trump for the most part. I didn't either. I liked some of the things that he did economically, but, you know, I was one of those that said that maybe we should take away his Twitter password, or at least change his Twitter password on his phone, so he would stop inciting some of the fiery stuff. But, I mean, Rose McGowan is turning very, very anti-government very, very quickly. Anarchist, maybe? Libertarian? Probably not. But she's turning very far against the government in a hurry. And I kind of like it. By the way, we're back up to 9, which means you guys rock. McGowan then pinned the tweet, meaning it now remains at the top of her profile. The former TV star did receive some pushback when one of her followers claimed having Trump removed from office, convicted of his alleged crimes, would be a step in the right direction. McGowan replied, "Then I suggest we also, in the interest of fairness, go after Obama for the war crimes in Yemen, George W. Bush for the war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Clinton and Kosovo and HW for the war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Reagan. And, well, Carter actually wasn't that bad. He was bad economically, but he wasn't a warmonger as much. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to keep going back, we're going to keep going back all the way." In another tweet, the actress was questioned what her solution is. "My overall solution is to keep working to deprogram U.S. cult members on both sides so they can clearly see what lies they've been told and revolt," McGowan, 47, wrote in a lengthy statement also shared to Twitter. So, she's kind of based. I kind of like it. Just that little bit of a push over the edge, and she might come down and say, "Down with the federal government. End the Fed." I don't think a Hollywood actress could get that far, but maybe. Speaking of people in Hollywood who don't really have a whole lot of place in the world anymore. From the Daily Wire, Macaulay Culkin supports erasing Trump cameo in Home Alone 2, from John Brown. Actor Macaulay Culkin approves calls from fans to remove President Trump's cameo from the 1992 classic Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Responding Wednesday to a Twitter user who floated the idea of replacing Trump with a 40-year-old version of Culkin, the former child star responded, "Sold." Culkin later applauded another Twitter user who expunged Trump from the footage, simply, "Bravo." Due to popular request, I've removed Trump from Home Alone.
Excuse me, where's the lobby? Thanks. Excuse me, where's the lobby?
You did a shitty job of it. Others offered suggestions regarding who could place Trump, such as Darth Vader and Christopher Plummer, who replaced disgraced actor Kevin Spacey in All the Money in the World. Trump appears for a brief moment in the movie when Kevin McAllister, played by Culkin, asked him for directions in the lobby, although Trump's appearances spanned 13 films and even more television shows, such as The Little Rascals, Zoolander, Sex and the City, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, maybe all those will get digitally altered too. Let's just erase everything from the history books. That's never a wrong solution. Let's rewrite history so that Donald Trump is always evil. Don't worry, Eurasia has always been at war with Oceania. From the Associated Press, Mexican president mounts campaign against social media bans, from Mark Stevenson. Mexico's president vowed Thursday to lead an international effort to combat what he considers censorship by social media companies that have blocked or suspended the accounts of U.S. President Donald Trump. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's administration is reaching out to other governments to form a common front on the issue. I can tell you that at the first G20 meeting we have, I'm going to make a proposal on this issue, López Obrador said. Yes, social media should not be used to incite violence and all that, but this cannot be used as a pretext to suspend freedom of expression. And when Obrador is telling you you have gone too far on limiting freedom of expression, you have gone way too fucking far. Just like when Germany is saying the same thing. How can a company act as if it was all-powerful, omnipotent, as a sort of Spanish Inquisition on what's expressed, he's asked. Foreign Relations Secretary Marcelo Ebrard said Mexico is starting to build an international campaign around the issue. Given that Mexico, through our president, has spoken out, we immediately made contact with others who think the same, Ebrard said, noting that they had heard from officials in France, Germany, and the EU, Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. The president's orders are to make contact with all of them, share this concern, and works on coming up with a joint proposal, Ebrard said. We will see what is proposed. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is among those who have publicly criticized the action against Trump. Her spokesman said Monday the German leader found it problematic that corporate managers could deny someone access under rules not defined by law. When Mexico and Germany say you've gone too far on cracking down on speech, you have gone way too far. Let's keep going. From Reuters. Exclusive. Parler CEO says social media app favored by Trump supporters may not return. From Elizabeth Culliford and Jeffrey Daston. Social media platform Parler, which has gone dark after being cut off by major service providers that accuse the app of failing to police violent content, may never get back online, said its CEO, John Matsey. I thought Bongino was the head of this one. I didn't know this was somebody else. I thought this was Bongino's pet project. As a procession of business vendors sever ties with the 2-year-old site following the storming of the U.S. Capitol last week, Matsey said in an interview with Reuters on Wednesday that he does not know when or if it will return. It could be never, he said. We don't know yet. After this story was published, Matsey added, I'm an optimist. It may take days, it may take weeks, but Parler will return, and when we do, it will be stronger. Matsey said that Parler was talking to more than one cloud computing service, but refused to disclose names, citing the likelihood of harassment for the companies involved. He said the best thing would be if Parler could get back on Amazon.com Incorporated. No, that is the absolute fucking worst thing that could happen for Parler, because then they will be at the behest of Amazon forever. And Bezos, who's no friend of these kind of people, another rich fucking elite that hates these people. Moving on, talking a little bit more about Parler. From the New York Post. Trump wanted to join Parler under the name Person X, CEO claims. Yeah, the internet crashed, so now everything's got to reload, and I had everything up and loaded before, so we're going to be just a little bit slow on the rest of this. From Noah Manskar. President Trump considered joining Parler under a pseudonym in the months before the controversial social network went dark, its chief executive claimed in court papers. Trump had thought about moving to the Twitter-like platform, which was popular with his supporters under the name Person X, since at least October of last year, according to Parler CEO John Matsey. And then he will rip off the robe and reveal that he's Dr. Wiley. I guarantee there's nobody in my audience that's geeky enough to get that reference. I am the only one. Mega Man 6, by the way. Look it up. The president's purported plans were part of the reason Amazon Web Services decided to boot Parler from its servers this week, putting the fledgling company in an existential crisis, according to Matsey. Based on my interactions with AWS personnel during this period, I believe AWS's decision to terminate service to Parler was based not on expressed concerns about Parler's compliance with the AWS customer agreement, but in part on a desire to deny President Trump a platform on any large social media service. Matsey said in a declaration filed Wednesday as part of his country's federal lawsuit against AWS. Yeah, I could see that, because if he can bypass the media doesn't get to change what it is that he said. Let's keep going. From Fox News. AOC, country will heal with the actual liberation of southern states. From GOP control, from Joseph A. Wolfzone. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Honorable D. Twitch, took to Instagram on Tuesday night and suggested that states in the South need to be liberated. During an over-hour-long live stream about the Capitol Hill riots and the ongoing efforts to impeach President Trump, the progressive lawmaker reiterated her call for GOP Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley to resign or be ousted by Democratic challengers for leading the opposition in the certification of President-elect Biden's victory. She then pointed to multiracial and multicultural grassroots organizations in Georgia that led to Democrats taking control of the Senate, because that election was completely 100% above board and there were no problems with it whatsoever. Honk honk, wink wink. As a sign that southern states are not red states, they are suppressed states. Let's have a listen.
That southern states are not red states. They are suppressed states, which means the only way that our country...
Oh shit, did I just lose internet again?
...is going to heal is through the actual liberation of southern states, the actual liberation of the poor, the actual liberation of working people from economic, social, and racial oppression. That's the only way. That southern states are not red states.
Hey, oh no, we don't need secession, okay? We just need the resources, and we're going to turn them into blue states, okay? Girlfriend, come on, Ilhan, girlfriend. We're going to change those southern states, okay? There's going to be shifts left and right. I know that people are flooding into Georgia right now because of the fact that the movie industry is moving there, because they fucked California out of every natural resource that they have and taxed themselves to death. They're moving to Georgia right now because there are lower taxes. But they're going to come in and vote the same things into Georgia, and they're going to wreck that state too. And they're probably going to move into Florida as well, by the way. Just keep that in mind as they go. So no, it's there are going to be demographic shifts. There are going to be shifts in politics, depending on who's in office and when. But I will tell you this, that the progressive agenda that you're trying to push onto these states, while they may fly with the new Hollywood elites that are coming from California and going into Georgia because the movie industry is moving there, while you are doing that, you are poison pilling the rest of the states from joining in on that. That is a poison pill. Your progressive agenda sucks, and as they go and destroy another state, it's going to make it harder to get more and more red states to flip blue. I mean, the stranglehold of the public unions pushed my state red for at least one cycle, and I'm fairly convinced that it pushed my state red again, in spite of the fact that everything in the election was completely above board, wink wink honk honk. But the progressive agenda and the union influence have pushed my state to at least purple status. So we will see what comes in off of that. I got just a few more here. Those of you who are lurking, go ahead and get those last minute messages in so we can read your name at the end. Once again, if that message is sufficiently stupid enough to raise the intellectual level of this program, it will get read on air. But let's keep going. I got one, speaking of Wisconsin, from right here in my home state. Prosecutors seek to modify Kyle Rittenhouse's bonds agreement after they say he displayed racist signs. From Omar Jimenez and Joe Sutton. Prosecutors are asking the Kenosha County Circuit Court to modify the bond conditions of Kyle Rittenhouse, who is facing homicide charges in the death of two men during protests last August, according to a motion filed by the Kenosha County District Attorney's Office on Wednesday. The office is requesting that Rittenhouse be prohibited from possessing or consuming alcohol, or being in any establishment that serves it, be prohibited from making any public display of any white power or white supremacy signs, symbols, or hand gestures, and not have any contact with any known militia members or members of any violent white power, white supremacist groups, including the group identified as the Proud Boys, that are completely not white supremacists. I don't know where they fucking get this bullshit from. Enrique Tarrio's black. This is what actually goes on with all of this. Mark Richards, the attorney representing Rittenhouse, said his client does not object to modified bond conditions proposed, according to court documents filed on Thursday. Yeah, I'm sure he just wants to get through the rest of this and get on with his fucking life. As Mr. Rittenhouse has no membership, affiliation, or affinity for any of the identified groups, the defense has no objection to a bond modification prohibiting Kyle Rittenhouse from having any known contact with any known hate group or their members, he wrote. He also did not object to a bond condition prohibiting the possession or consumption of alcohol. That's actually pretty standard. I'm surprised it wasn't in there before, but of course, him being under 21, I do believe may have been a piece of that. But yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't in there already. The Kenosha County Circuit Court has not issued a decision on the filings. The 18-year-old is out on $2 million bail after being arrested in connection with a fatal shooting in Kenosha. Rittenhouse is alleged to have been in the midst of protests that had broken out in the Wisconsin city over the police shooting of Jacob Blake, and authorities allege he fired at protesters because there was one that was coming to bash him in the fucking head with a skateboard. Rittenhouse was arraigned January 5th on 2 felony charges of homicide in the deaths of 2 men and felony attempted homicide charge in the wounding of another man. According to prosecutors, Rittenhouse was seen at a local bar with his mother about 90 minutes after the arraignment, and his presence and the behavior were confirmed by surveillance video. It wasn't exactly a local bar. They were out of the county, which I don't know where he's staying either. That's something I do need to keep in mind, because he can't go back home because he'd be crossing state lines under felony release. And I mean, even if it is only just a little skip across the border, he wouldn't be able to go back to Illinois. So I have no idea where he's staying in there, so that might be local for them, but we will see. All right, from the Blaze. Los Angeles School Board authorizes district to sue Gavin Newsom over his plan to reopen schools. From Leon Wolf. Teachers' unions in California have been remarkably successful thus far at using public pressure to keep the government from forcing them to return to their classrooms on even a part-time basis, as workers in virtually every other field in America have done, and as teachers across most of the rest of the country have done. However, the patience of California parents with the travails of distance learning has reached such a critical point that even Gavin Newsom, one of the nation's foremost proponents of COVID-19 inspired lockdowns, has begun to apply pressure on schools to reopen under a California Safe Schools for All framework. Yep, you got to get these kids back in for their government indoctrination so you can get these people back to work, so you can tax the ever-loving fuck out of them, is what this boils down to. The teachers' union isn't having it, and they're going to come back and sue the dude. There's your summary off of this one here. This one's going to go to court, and Newsom's probably going to get recalled. Let's keep going. I got a couple here. One article, one debunk. So we're going to just fly over these ones briefly. From the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness. The $3,000 a month toilet for the Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner Secret Service detail. From Peter Jameson, Carol Day Laning, and Paul Schwartzman. Many of U.S. Secret Service agents have stood guard in Washington's elite Colorama neighborhood, home over the years to cabinet secretaries and former presidents. Those agents have had to worry about death threats, secure perimeters, and suspicious strangers. But with the arrival of Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, they had a new worry: finding a toilet. Instructed not to use any of the half-dozen bathrooms inside the couple's house, the Secret Service detail, assigned to President Trump's daughter and son-in-law, spent months searching for a reliable restroom to use on the job, according to neighbors and law enforcement officials, after resorting to a porta-potty, as well as bathrooms at a nearby home of former President Barack Obama and the not-so-nearby residence of Vice President Pence. The agents finally found a toilet to call their own. But it came at a cost to U.S. taxpayers. Since September of 2017, the federal government has been spending $3,000 a month, more than $100,000 to date, to rent a basement studio with a bathroom from a neighbor of the Kushner family. It's like the help, okay? The help, they're not allowed to use the bathrooms in the master's house. Well, the Secret Service themselves have refuted this claim. From The Blaze, Secret Service refutes WAPO story claiming that Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner denied agents restroom access in their home. From Breck Dumas, The Washington Post reported Thursday that U.S. Secret Service agents assigned to protect Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump have been forced to go to great lengths to use the bathrooms because the couple forbids their protectors from using the facilities in their home. But a spokesperson for the Secret Service says the Post claims are not true. The Post made waves with the story alleging that Kushner and Trump told agents they were not allowed to use any of the 6 restrooms in their Washington, D.C. home, causing the Guardians major inconveniences whenever nature called. After resorting to a porta potty as well as bathrooms at the nearby home of former President Barack Hussein Obama and the not-so-nearby residence of Vice President Ray Bannon, the agents finally found a toilet to call their own, the newspaper reported added, but it came at a cost to U.S. taxpayers since September 2017. The federal government has been spending $3,000 a month, more than $100,000 to date, to rent a basement studio with a bathroom from a neighbor of the Kushner family. And the Secret Service came out and said that is bullshit. But that's been one of the recurring themes coming out of this entire administration, was the fact that these people want to come out and say that, well, look at all the Secret Service costs. Look at all that's costing to the taxpayers. Look at all those golf trips that President Trump said and how much that costed Secret Service at this and that for him to go to his Mar-a-Lago place again. And it's all outright, well, yes, it does cost to have the Secret Service go with him to Mar-a-Lago. But this story right here was outright bullshit. All right. The last one that I have here, I've got a tweet and then the article to go with it, and then we will read the names of everybody who chatted throughout the week and head on out of here. From KATV News, breaking: authorities are investigating a TikTok video that might show missing Arkansas girl Cassie Compton. All right, let's see what ABC had to say about that. Authorities are looking at TikTok video that might show missing Arkansas girl Cassie Compton, from KATV. Authorities on Thursday were investigating a TikTok video that possibly shows missing Arkansas girl Cassie Compton. How many times am I going to read that line over and over again? The video, which has circulated on Facebook, shows a girl sitting in the backseat of a car with 2 men. The girl, who has dark circles under her eyes, stares silently at the camera, with her head tilted as the men speak to each other. Tina Storrs, a private investigator who has been searching for Compton for years, said the girl strongly resembles Compton, but could not confirm it's her. She said that she has alerted local authorities and is trying to find out who posted the video. A woman posting an Instagram video later Thursday claiming that she's the one in the video. She said she doesn't know who Compton is and that her eyes were bruised in a robbery. There were reports that the woman's family reported her missing in Southern California, but she says in the video that she is fine. Authorities have not commented on her response. Stuttgart police said Thursday they received dozens of calls about the video. Chief Mark Duke said in a statement, "We have investigators working on this right now and can't release any other information." He said Arkansas State Police are involved. Well, if this is the missing little girl, then I do hope that she gets back to her family. She is an adult at this point. She went missing in 2014 when she was 15, so that was 6 years ago, putting her at 21. So, really, honestly, even if she is found, then there's really nothing that anything can do. She doesn't have to go home. She's out on her own. She's living her own life at this point, but at least to get some closure for the family, I think would be a good thing. But she also does claim to not be the person, so I hope the family gets some closure at some point. All right, and that's it. So, the last thing that we do on a Friday is read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat here. I am going to let you get up on here so you guys can put your messages in. As I mentioned, if you say something that is sufficiently stupid, it will raise the intelligence level of this program and will be read out loud. But let's catch up with the week. Starting on Monday, we had Ron Helton, Silent Caster. Harvey McLeod made a rare morning appearance. Thank you, Harvey. Chilaga 1984, Blind Fear, Quest Fanning, Might Be Wrong. 100 Proof Guy, that was a new name in here. Thanks for stopping by. And Jay Naheen. On Tuesday, that was the day that we had all the technical issues, so we had a little bit of a slow day. We had Big Dazzer, Ron Helton, Chilaga 1984, and Halcyon Zing. That was a new name as well. Thanks for joining us. On Wednesday was Wednesday and Thursday were both busy days. Wednesday we had Ron Helton, Chilaga 1984, Sully Blue, Blind Fear, Aimless Gamer over on the Twitch side, who, if I ever catch him on Twitch, I'm going to make him a mod over there. We had Quest Fanning, Marty, Yadair Hay from over on the Beauty and the Beta Frozen North server. Thanks for stopping by. And XXX.Limpio XXX. That was a new name as well. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out. Hope we see you guys again. Yesterday, we had Chilaga 1984, Ron Helton. We had Rye87, who did appear to be a detractor of the program, but that's okay. Detractors get to speak too, because we invite all points of view. Quest Fanning was here. Corporal Fly was here, holding the conversation with Rye87, MK Ultra. Linda Cloud, that's a new name that I saw for the first time yesterday, but thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I saw you in the chat earlier today too, so. Root of All Beers. I love that name. That's awesome. Both because I like beer and I like the reference to root beer. And Marty rounds out Thursday. Today, we have, starting from the beginning, we got a little bit of aggressive stuff going on in the chat here too today, by the way. So, you guys, if you do have mod access over on Twitch, direct calls to violence, those do violate federal law, so just keep that in mind. Chilaga 1984 is here. Ron Helton is here with the AOC sticker starting out. Apparently everything was running at 400 kbs at Ron Helton House. You can't hold it or mold it. You should have already sold it. Forewarned is forearmed. Oof. Silent Caster's here. Good morning. I did not get the coof. I was just really disoriented. Like, headache and lack of coordination. Which might have been lack of sleep. I know, like I said, I slept for 12 hours. The current value of the stock market is ludicrous. It does not even reflect reality. No, it just reflects a lot of printing of money. Yeah, like Silent Caster said, just print money. I forgot, are we for or against police? That's on you. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about the police. And as I've said before, I come from a very local county sheriff kind of thing where the sheriff is beholden to the people directly as in elections. So that's my background with policing, and they do go in. They go in the burning building. They go into the bank that's being robbed. They do stuff like that. But when they enforce the victimless crimes, well, we need to get rid of the victimless crimes. And then we won't need as many police, I would think. Ron says, remember when that perennial liar Biden said the new green steel was not part of his platform? Yeah, it is. I think Biden doesn't even know what's in his platform. Yeah, no, he probably doesn't. Marty is here over on the Periscope side. Says, I thought Bush was bad at handling the economy. Biden will be worse, and it's scary. Thank you, Marty. Let's see. Well, buckle up. Here comes FDR2. Tyranny times 2. Silent Caster says, at least in Monopoly, when you run out of money, you lose. Oh, wait, that's exactly what's going to happen to us, too. Never mind. I like that. Welcome in, Linda Cloud. Quest Fanning, welcome in. Olaz Bandit says, God bless the rich. And Olaz Bandit got a little bit aggressive at the end of the show, too. So, I disavow. Reign in the media, too late. Hey, our guy's coming into power. Now let's have a transition of power. Our liberty and justice has gone wild. Sorry for the lag, working while I listen. Well, that's okay. I do a lot of that with the Daily Ignoramus, too, when he's on in the morning. I disavow. Anyone who hasn't done so should read Factfulness by Hand Rosling. Helps clear the fog of negativity and fear-mongering fostered by our culture, MSM, and even our basest instincts. Based. Yeah, they seem to have let them in. Yeah, they really did. Left to right, any bunch of idiots should not be able to run riot in key state buildings. Nancy trying to finance more $25,000 for ice cream freezers. Probably. Thanks, Quest. Disavow, disavow, disavow. Disavow. Sorry, Olez. Disavow. Let's see. Yeah, that's where we lost the stream. Yeah, that was a little bit of an internet bubble going on in the side of Spectrum. Blaming Trump for people entering Congress is false blame. Sets a great precedent. If we did that, all the media, the film would be blank. Sounds like a good idea. Is Parler suing Amazon? Yes, Parler is suing Amazon right now. Death Priest says, fuck lockdowns. Lockdowns are for cucks. Death Priest is also very aggressive today. He's not even gone on trial yet. How can they make such BS demands? Well, that's the condition of his bond. That's the condition for him being out on the street, basically, and not being sitting in a cell. So that's how they can make those demands. If true, this is damn petty. This could have been assigned a bathroom to the agents. I don't think that's true. Ivanka doesn't put up with Secret Service shit. MK Ultra says, Secret Service guys do have big mouths. Told me they hated the 6-hour golf rounds with Obama. Trump finished in 3. That's interesting. McConnell smuggles Coke's sticker got removed. They were removed by women's sports stickers. My website is 95% complete. Let's talk. Okay. The Discord server is in the description below. Head on in there and we'll talk. Absolutely, we'll talk. Nephilim says he knows where Compton is, LA. Pagan Pogrom Purgatory. Is this a left-wing or a right-wing or a left-wing show? I am a Federalist. I don't really belong to either wing. I think that most of my audience is somewhere between right-wing and right libertarian. Seawall says late, but you called for the Banner Hammer 88. Yeah, we had a guy before the drop that was being a little bit aggressive. So, but I don't think he's here anymore. I don't see him there anymore. Linda says I'm doing well. Thank you, Linda, for saying I'm doing a good job. Chilaga 1984 says make me a mod over here if you like. I will keep that in mind. And we'll throw that in there too. Yeah, we can mute the restream bot if you want. We can lose about half of them by getting rid of victimless laws. Yep. Power up, Chilaga. Thanks, that surprise says more about you, though. Chilaga is going to finish out, though. It says Twitch continues to play on mobile app when your phone is locked. That's a really nice feature. I didn't know that. I didn't know that because I've watched some live streams before where I don't know what to do if I do need to lock my phone or something. So yeah, that's and Twitch has Chromecast capability, which DLive dying. This is welcome news. Who knew? Yeah, Twitch is actually very functional in a lot of places where DLive is not, but DLive is more free, so I'm going to continue to streaming to both. Okay, Pagan. I like that. Actually, I'm going to read that just because that does raise the intellectual level of this program. Federalist, more like fagulist. Nice. Pagan Pogrom Purgatory. I have a wrench. Do you? Do I know who you are? You do have a wrench. You are correct. Is that Neff? I don't know. I like that, though. That's awesome. All right, and that is going to be it for the day. So, as of right now, I have no plans to do a stream this weekend, but I might still do that solo video that I've been promising here. I know I've got to get together with Jake and see what we can do with Freedom Scoop as well. So, something else to watch for as we go forward here. Hopefully, we can get that back up, loaded, and ready to go so we can start getting text articles in so we can share those around. And get the functionality up, and so we can start seeing the rest of our programming on there. Looking forward to that. Otherwise, we'll be back here on Monday for more Contemporary and the Red Net Show, which hopefully I will get a video clip of the Biden speech. But I gotta get some breakfast down. I've been eating since breakfast yesterday. Get myself to work here and catch up on all the stuff that I couldn't do because I had no coordination yesterday. So we will see you next time, whenever that will be. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.